Hello again. My name is Ernest, and for all my life, I've been an odd bird. Today, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Tacky the penguin. Well, we kind of already got introduced. He's a children's book character who embodies for me how queerness is essential to thriving communities. Tacky is not like his family. All of his relatives are proper penguins, aptly named Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect. But Tacky is a little bit different. He marches to a different beat, he does splashy cannonballs, and greets others with a hearty, "What's happening?" As a queer child and queer and transgender adult, I can relate to Tacky. I knew I had a different perspective on romantic attraction and gender from a young age. But being embraced for who I was as a child, who I am today, and who I am becoming in my adulthood has been one of the most transformative experiences of divine love in my life. Now, to understand my story, we need to go over some vocabulary, primarily the idea of queer, not just as a label for identities like mine, but as a verb, meaning the act of challenging normativity and looking at the world through a lens that questions what is normal and eventually changes our beliefs about what we consider weird or unfamiliar to us. When we embrace what is queer or odd about ourselves and others, we are changed. When we challenge the normal or the status quo, we are investing in our growth, our diversity, and our mutual transformation. Queering is essential to loving ourselves and our neighbors because divine love is not about maintaining blandness, uniformity, or propriety. When we truly love, we open our hearts to weirdness and playfulness in others and ourselves, allowing us to change and change others. At first, Tacky the penguin, people aren't quite sure about his uniqueness and playfulness. His relatives deem him, like society deems queer and trans people, as an outcast. In this initial judgment and in our own judgments of others' weirdness, we dehumanize, or depenguinize in their case, individuals that don't meet our standards. Over time, we are shamed for what makes us tacky, cringe, or odd, and many people learn to suppress their playfulness and exploration of their identity for fear of being ostracized. Shame here is a powerful tool. We learn to pack away parts of ourselves that are loud, surprising, or different. We learn to be quieter, smaller, and safer. I want all of us to close our eyes and think about a time when we did something weird or expressed ourselves in a way that others considered weird. Whether you've questioned your gender, your sexuality, your faith, your career, your marriage, or your friendships, or just wore an outfit you weren't sure about. Cheetah print, anyone? That moment of not fitting the mold or resisting the path, that's queerness. That's the weirdness we're talking about. We've all probably felt judged for doing something like that, which makes us want to just try to just be normal. Instead, let's imagine a different story. What if when you were weird, you were celebrated? Like I said earlier, queering is the idea of challenging or changing our idea of what is normal. What if we celebrated every time something challenged or changed us? I call this celebration queer joy. And I believe when each of us truly loves, we find queer joy in our hearts. One of my favorite academics that I learned about in my undergraduate studies is Maria Lojones. I learned from Lojones about loving playfulness, which she describes as a playful attitude involving openness to surprise, openness to being a fool, openness to self-construction or reconstruction, and to construction or reconstruction of the worlds that we inhabit playfully. Lojones' work inspires me to let go of strict control out of over how others perceive me, to reject judgment, and to live as my authentic self. When I started medically transitioning, I made a promise to myself in the form of a tattoo in my own handwriting on my right forearm. It's of Dr. Seuss's quote, "Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." It was a promise to accept the queerest version of myself, because my queerness is one of the greatest gifts that God has given me. It's a superpower to see complexity, playfulness, and potential in everything around me. I also chose the name Earnest for a similar reason. I always want to be the most genuine and thoughtful version of myself, and being queer is part of that. Being trans for me was a decision to always earnestly love myself and never settle for a version of me that's not authentic. Ultimately, I choose to let love guide me towards communities and individuals that embrace and celebrate my queer joy and all versions of me, past, present, and future. I feel queer joy, when people compliment my outfits at work. I feel it when I connect with someone about a niche subject. I feel it when my partner and I are cooking or hanging out with our families, both chosen and biological. I feel it when I love and relate to a fictional character. I feel it when I talk with long-distance friends on the phone. I feel queer joy when I'm trying new things or breaking old patterns. And queer joy is here, right now. I'm grateful to be in a space with all of you today that has chosen this path, a congregation that has already decided that love matters more than conformity. Like Tacky, I refuse to be defined by the normal version of who I could have been. In this story, when the hunters arrive, Tacky's queerness isn't a liability. It's the penguin's salvation. When the other penguins accept Tacky, they are learning to love a reality that is broader than their narrow rules. They begin to learn to keep from him, to keep themselves safe from the hunters. Communities thrive when individuals are able to embrace their uniqueness. This is an example of how love inspires change in ourselves. I've also been reading Bell Hook's book, All About Love. And in it, she says, genuine love is a personal revolution. Love takes your ideas, your desires, and your actions and welds them together in one experience and one living reality, which is a new you. She explains that true love is a willingness to nurture growth in ourselves and each other, going beyond heart connections in which we accept who people are, but instead see and love who we could become under each other's influence. To queer our love is to allow playfulness, absurdity, weirdness, and joy into our hearts. It is to love the tacky in each other, the odd parts, the changing, and evolving. It's an optimistic perspective. We challenge those around us to break patterns and surprise us in how they have evolved or explored their own identity. It means we support each other in our journeys beyond what is normal, choosing love over normativity. Because, as Bell Hooks says, when we commit to true love, we are committed to being changed, to being acted upon by the beloved in a way that enables us to be more self-actualized. So I invite you, this week, look for the tacky in yourself. Celebrate it. Look for the tacky in someone you love. Surprise them by celebrating it instead of correcting it. That's how we queer love. That's how we change. Thanks.